September 1939. City after city fell in flames, and entire enemy air forces were crushed in days. This was the birth of the Luftwaffe's legend, the world's most feared air arm, striking with unstoppable speed from the skies. But how could such dominance collapse into chaos and ruin? Inside the rise and unraveling of air power, the real story begins. In 1935, the Luftwaffe emerged from the shadows, officially unveiled as the air arm of a resurgent Germany. For years, its formation had unfolded in secret, sidestepping the Treaty of Versailles' strict ban on military aviation. Behind closed doors, engineers and officers mapped out an air force tailored for swift, concentrated blows, not for long-range devastation. The doctrine that took hold favored tactical air power. Aircraft would operate in close coordination with ground troops, delivering precision strikes and supporting armored advances. At the heart of this vision stood three aircraft: the Messerschmitt Bf 109, a nimble fighter designed for air superiority and escort missions; the Junkers U-87 Stuka, a dive bomber engineered for pinpoint attacks; and the Heinkel He 111, a medium bomber built for tactical bombing and transport. Production of these types surged in the mid-1930s, giving the Luftwaffe a formidable arsenal by the eve of war. General Walter Weaver, the force's first chief of staff, had once argued for a broader approach, one that included heavy, long-range bombers capable of striking deep into enemy territory. His death in 1936 cleared the way for a narrower focus. Under Hermann Göring and his inner circle, the Luftwaffe became a tool of Blitzkrieg, optimized for speed, surprise, and close support. Strategic bombing was sidelined in favor of immediate battlefield results. Training, procurement, and doctrine all reflected this tactical bias. By 1939, the Luftwaffe was not just an air force. It was the spearhead of a new kind of war, ready for rapid, decisive action. At dawn on September 1st, 1939, the Luftwaffe unleashed its power on the Polish town of Wielun. Within hours, waves of bombers and Stuka dive bombers struck airfields, rail lines, and troop columns, clearing the path for German armor. Over 5 weeks, Luftwaffe units flew thousands of sorties, crippling the Polish Air Force before many of its aircraft could take off. Polish resistance collapsed under the combined weight of air and ground assault, a new kind of war defined by speed and shock. In the spring of 1940, the formula repeated itself across the Low Countries and France. The Luftwaffe's tactical doctrine, concentrating fighters and bombers on narrow fronts, allowed German troops to break through at Sedan and race for the coast. French and British air units, scattered and uncoordinated, struggled to respond. The devastation was swift and total. By June, nearly 1,000 French aircraft lay destroyed or captured on airfields around Paris. Luftwaffe squadrons dominated the skies, providing relentless support to advancing panzers and isolating enemy forces. The numbers told the story. In the opening days of the campaign in the West, Luftwaffe sorties reached into the thousands each day. Airfields were reduced to smoking ruins, and columns of refugees choked the roads, targeted by low-flying fighters. The integration of air and ground forces delivered rapid victories, confirming the effectiveness of Blitzkrieg. Yet this triumph depended on concentrated force, short distances, and the element of surprise, conditions that would soon prove difficult to sustain. In the summer of 1940, Luftwaffe squadrons crossed the Channel in the largest air offensive the world had ever seen. Their target was the Royal Air Force. German planners believed that destroying Royal Air Force Fighter Command would clear the way for an invasion of Britain. But the tactics that had brought victory in Poland and France now faced new obstacles. The Messerschmitt Bf 109, the Luftwaffe's primary fighter, could only loiter over southern England for about 20 minutes before fuel forced a return to base. Bombers like the Heinkel He 111, designed for short-range tactical missions, lacked the defensive armament and range for deep, unescorted raids. Across the coast, Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding orchestrated Britain's defense using an integrated network of radar stations known as Chain Home. These early warning sites fed real-time data to sector controllers, who directed squadrons with precision. Royal Air Force fighters could be scrambled to intercept incoming raids with just minutes to spare, maximizing their limited numbers. Throughout August, the Luftwaffe hammered airfields and radar stations, but the British system absorbed the blows. Repairs were rapid, and fighter losses were replaced from home bases. German intelligence underestimated the resilience of this network, mistaking temporary outages for permanent destruction. On September 7, 1940, under orders from Hitler, the Luftwaffe shifted its focus from airfields to bombing London. The pressure on fighter command suddenly eased. British squadrons regrouped, and the Luftwaffe's chance to break Royal Air Force resistance slipped away. The failure to achieve air superiority over Britain was the Luftwaffe's first major defeat. From this point, the skies over Europe would never again be uncontested. On June 22, 1941, the Luftwaffe joined the largest invasion in history as German forces crossed into the Soviet Union. In the opening weeks, Luftwaffe squadrons swept aside the Red Air Force, destroying thousands of aircraft on the ground and in the air. At Kiev, German air crews claimed the destruction of 2,171 Soviet vehicles and more than 100 aircraft in less than 2 weeks. The scale of these victories seemed to confirm the Luftwaffe's reputation for dominance. Yet the Eastern Front demanded more than tactical brilliance. The distance from German bases to the front lines grew with every advance, stretching supply chains to the breaking point. Aircraft suffered from constant sorties, harsh weather, and rough field conditions. By the end of 1941, the Luftwaffe had lost more than 2,000 aircraft in the East, far more than could be replaced. Maintenance units struggled to keep battered planes flying, while spare parts and fuel grew scarce as winter set in. The human cost mounted just as quickly. Veteran pilots, the backbone of earlier campaigns, were lost at a rate the training schools could not match. New replacements lacked experience, and shortened training hours left them ill-prepared for the brutal air war. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union moved entire aircraft factories east of the Urals, beyond the reach of German bombers. By early 1942, Soviet production rebounded, sending new waves of fighters and bombers to the front. The Luftwaffe, designed for short, decisive campaigns, found itself locked in a war of attrition it was never built to sustain. By 1943, Allied bombers were striking deep into the heart of Germany, day and night. American B-17 and B-24 bombers pounded industrial cities by daylight, while Royal Air Force Lancasters and Halifaxes set the night sky ablaze. The Luftwaffe, once the hunter, became the hunted. Every mission cost experienced pilots. Those losses could not be replaced. In early 1944, a new threat arrived. The P-51 Mustang with drop tanks that allowed it to escort bombers all the way to Berlin and back. Suddenly, German fighters faced swarms of Allied escorts, and interception turned into survival. The real crisis began in May 1944. Allied raids targeted synthetic fuel plants at Leuna, Politz, and Merseburg. Within weeks, Germany's fuel output dropped by more than half. By summer, it fell by nearly 80%. Luftwaffe squadrons were grounded or flew only a handful of sorties. Training hours for new pilots dwindled to a fraction of pre-war standards. The air war shifted from contest to collapse as the Luftwaffe's lifeblood, fuel, ran dry. Desperation bred innovation, but by 1944, new technology could not reverse the tide. The Focke-Wulf FW-190 had once surprised Allied pilots with its speed and firepower, but Allied numbers and tactics quickly caught up. The Messerschmitt Me-262, the world's first operational jet fighter, promised a revolution in air combat. In combat, Me-262s claimed around 745 aerial victories. Impressive on paper, but a fraction of what was needed. Production delays, engine failures, and Hitler's insistence on using the jet as a bomber kept numbers low. Most German pilots entering combat in 1944 had received just 50 to 100 hours of flight training, compared to over 200 hours at the war's start. Inexperienced crews struggled to master advanced jets, and losses mounted. By the final months, more than 75,000 Luftwaffe aircraft had been destroyed or damaged, an industrial and human cost Germany could not absorb. No amount of innovation could fill the ranks or fuel the engines. The Luftwaffe's collapse was total and irreversible. Air superiority is never permanent. It is a fleeting advantage, lost faster than it is built. Today, as nations invest billions in next-generation aircraft, the lesson endures. Technology and numbers mean little without strategy, adaptability, and training. Air power's fragility remains a warning for every military planner. Subscribe for more stories